Problem number 17 in section 9.4. Quick smoking. In a survey of 444 HIV positive smokers, 170 reported that they had used a nicotine patch to try to quit smoking. Can you conclude that less than half of HIV positive smokers have used a nicotine patch and use alpha 0.05 level of significance? So now we first do step 0 is write out the given information. The given information we have is 144 and 170. 144 is the sample size because it said the survey of, right? It said the survey of, so that is the sample size. And in 144 people, we have 170 use nicotine patch. So not all of them use, just a part of them. So that will be X. So from this information, we can find P hat, and P hat is the sample proportion, is 170 out of 444. If you use a calculator to divide this number, this is an ugly number, so I prefer to keep this because we will use the calculator in GeoGebra to simplify, so we don't have to divide this number. So step 1 is set up the null and alternative hypothesis. We look at the question, and the question said that, can you conclude that less than half? And blah, blah, blah. So we see the word less than half. This telling us this is the percent. So this problem is not talking about the mean, but it's talking about the percentage. So P, we use the population, which is P, and less than half, so less than 0.5. So P less than 0.5 is the claim, and this claim go under the null and alternative. It will equal and opposite to the equal sign. In this case, we will choose less than. So we recall, so we have the sample and population. So P hat is the proportion for sample and P is for the population. Under the claim, we always use the population letter P. Okay, so step 2, we will assign alpha, but the problem already assigned 0.05 for us. Step number 3, we use the P. Step number 3 is test statistic. So I will write TS for test statistic. For the proportion, we will use the formula P hat minus P naught divided by square root of P naught, 1 minus P naught divided by N. P hat is 170, 444 minus, okay, P naught, we don't have P naught, and now we look P naught, we look under the null, we assume that the P is 0.5, and that will be P naught. I just plug in the number, and then we will use GeoGebra for this. So here, okay, so we first have a fraction. On the top, we have 170 divided by 444. And then we move to the middle, minus 0.5. In the bottom, we do square root first, and then we have a fraction. At the top, we have P naught, which is a fraction, so 170 divided by 444, and then parenthesis 1 minus fraction 170 divided by 444 over n is 444. Sorry, P naught is 0.5, right? So it's not 170. So this is 0.5, 0.5. So we should have fraction first, 0.5, parenthesis 1 minus 0.5, and divided by 444. So we got the answer is negative 49356. On the test, I will tell you how many places that we need to use. So I write 4.9, okay, for one decimal place. Step number 4, we use the p-value and critical value method. For the p-value, and we go back to H1, and we will use the left side, right, left tail, because it's less than. So less than, so the number that less than 0.5, so it's on the left side. So we use left tail. And we first put into here will be the test statistic, okay? Test statistics is negative 4.9. If you want to be more exact, then use 4 decimal places. And then we 5p. So this is 5p. For critical, we also draw the same picture. And we put in here is alpha, which is 0.05. And right here we find critical, right? So now for the p-value, we use the GeoGebra Classic. And then we click on probability. Okay, so we use Z, and I click on the left side. I will put in the number negative 4.9356. So I got the probability is really small, and it shows 0, so it's considered really small. So P is 0. Okay. So step number 5, we compare the P. So the P is 0 and the alpha is 0.05, so alpha is bigger. So if P less than alpha, we will reject the null. And step number 6, if you reject the null, now you go back to step 1. If you reject the null, so that means the null is gone, because it's wrong, so that's why we have to remove it. You reject it, so you only have this statement left. The statement say the percent is less than half. Okay, so if someone asks you, can we conclude that less than half of HIV positive smokers have used a nicotine patch? In the problem, you just show that it's less than half, and then someone asks you, is that less than half? Then we will say, well, yes, right? So we can say, we can conclude that, and then copy that the ring sentence down here. Okay, we can conclude that less than half of HIV positive smokers have used a nicotine patch. For the critical method, we will input 0.05, and we see that is negative 1.64 for the critical value. Now the region, the blank region is do not reject, right? The null, and the shaded region is reject the null. Then we see that the test statistic number land on here because it's -4. So here we have 0, -1, -2, -3, and -4. So -4 is on the left side of -1, right? So it's on the left side and it's land on reject the null region. So we say reject the null in step 5, and in step 6 we make the conclusion the same thing. Okay, so we use this we use the GeoGebra for this problem, and how do we do that? We're gonna go to, it's called the z-test of proportion. Okay, so you don't use estimate for the confidence interval. Hypothesis testing is on the top, it's for z-test, and we are doing the proportion. For the null, it is 0.5, and we use the left tail, so it's less than. Now the success is a part, is what are we looking for, which is 170. The n is the sample size 444. So you can see that the very last line, that is the p-value, which is 0 that we got. And the z, the line that next to the last line is -49356, and that is the test statistic.